When considering the decision to spay or neuter your dog, there are many things to think about. As a dog owner, you want to do the thing that is best for both you and your dog. In this day and age, most people think that what is best is to spay or neuter your dog, but I'm here to prove otherwise. Not spaying and neutering your dogs is best because it creates a better dog and owner bond. Healthier dogs helps the dog to retain their individuality, and it leaves the option to reproduce. I have owned and trained dogs for over 25 years, and it is from my experience that I have come to realize that there is a greater bond between owner and dog when their reproductive organs are kept intact. I believe this to be true because a dog produces hormones that allow bonds to be made. These hormones are drastically altered when a dog is spayed or neutered. I've seen countless scenarios where a dog never bonds to their owner because they are spayed or neutered before they ever meet their forever owner. Recently, my brother had a dog that he got neutered after owning him for a little over 2 months. Before the dog was neutered, he wanted to be around my brother as much as possible and looked forward to seeing him walk through the door. After the neutering, his dog found little interest in being around him and could care less when he walked through the door. My brother hasn't been able to create any more of a bond, and the neutering took place over 6 months ago. Although you have probably heard the opposite to be true, spaying and neutering your dogs isn't the healthiest choice. I would like to share a story about a veterinarian named Dr. Becker. Dr. Becker was a vet who insisted on the spaying and neutering of all of her patients. After 5 years in her own practice, she started to see a lot of her patients come back to her with hypothyroidism and adrenal disease. She talked to Dr. Jack Oliver, who ran the adrenal lab at the University of Tennessee. He confirmed that adrenal disease was happening in huge amounts in dogs in the U.S., and that it is definitely tied to sex hormone imbalance. Dr. Becker now only does spaying and neutering if it is medically necessary. Along with Dr. Becker's experience, there was recently a study done in the UK that suggests there isn't much scientific evidence to support the idea that spaying of female dogs decreases or eliminates future risk of mammary tumors or breast cancer. This has been a widely spread benefit of spaying females and turns out to be more of a theory than a scientifically proven fact. As for males, a study done at Michigan State University shows that neutering has no effect on the development of prostate cancer, although many people have promoted neutering to prevent prostate cancer in male dogs. We each love our dogs for its unique individuality and the one-of-a-kind bond we have with them. Individuality is as important in dogs as it is in humans. Part of a dog's personality comes from the hormones that are produced because they have the reproductive parts. When these parts are taken away, a part of their personality is taken away as well. In my experience, a dog who has been spayed or neutered is that they have less spunk, less drive, and could care less about what goes on around them. Before being spayed or neutered, these dogs would show excitement, motivation, and interest in the things around them. Anyone who owns their dog before and after a spay or neuter will see a change in the dog's personality. I know many people who feel like they lost their dog once they were spayed or neutered because they came back with such different personalities after the procedure was performed. I want to address the option for reproduction. When we bring a dog into our lives, we usually love them so much, and the people close to us love our dogs just as much. People who get to know our dog might decide that they want a dog just like ours. Although we can't give them a dog just like ours, we are able to give them some of the genes that our dog has by allowing our dogs to reproduce. There is nothing worse than wanting to have a dog reproduce and not being able to because a permanent decision was already made. I believe the option should remain available to allow your dog to reproduce. As I'm sure many of you are wondering, does this increase owner responsibility for a dog? Yes, it does increase owner responsibility. But I think that as Americans, we are somewhat lazy and the added responsibility of having a dog who still has the reproductive organs really isn't much. It's my personal belief that dogs shouldn't be let loose without a leash anyways, so it isn't a huge increase in responsibility when talking about a male or female. A male and a female dog comes into heat twice a year for about 14 days each time. There are certain inconveniences that this brings, but it really only amounts to 1 month out of the year in total days. If we want to have a dog, then we should be able to take on all the responsibilities that come with owning a dog. I recently read a blog about a man from Norway who explained that in Norway, it is very hard to get your dog spayed or neutered because they believe it to be cruel. A written explanation is needed to have the procedure done, and even then, it is rarely approved. America seems to be one of the few countries who believe so strongly in spaying and neutering. Another point that needs to be addressed when talking about spaying and neutering your dog is the benefits that this procedure has for vets. Getting a dog spayed or neutered isn't a cheap thing to do, and if we think of how many dogs there really are, we can quickly understand why vets are so quick to suggest and recommend that a dog be spayed or neutered. As much as we would like to think that vets are looking out for our dog's well-being first and foremost, this isn't always the case, and the money they will make from performing this procedure is significant. When making a life-changing decision for your dog, it is important to take all information into consideration and realize that just because the majority believe in spaying and neutering, it doesn't make it the correct choice. I believe we should take more responsibility for our dogs and avoid spaying or neutering them.